Another juror from the Chad Daybell trial sat down with Nate Eaton to go over his thoughts and some observations from the trial, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Y'all, Magic Spoon is back on the sofa and back in my cereal bowl, and we're going to talk about it today. Things that I ripped open and devoured for 200 please. Y'all, I was so excited to be working with Magic Spoon again. It's been a minute, but I've still been using their stuff behind the scenes. I absolutely love them, and I think you will too. So Magic Spoon is cereal, and as they like to say, they're cereal that's been reinvented, okay? I absolutely love cereal, and some of my best nostalgic memories are sitting on the sofa as a kid watching TV, movies, that kind of stuff with a bowl of cereal. Well, here's the thing. I can still rip through a box of cereal, okay? No problem. But my body doesn't like that, and that's where Magic Spoon comes in to help. Here's one of the things that I absolutely love about them. First of all, it's high protein. Secondly, it is zero sugar. I try as much as I can to do like the low carb, carb conscious, that kind of a diet, and Magic Spoon hits that with only like 4 to 5 grams of carbs per serving. Now also, there's no artificial flavors or dyes. And it's great for a variety of lifestyles. Soy-free, wheat-free, grain-free, keto-friendly, high protein, and naturally flavored. I mean, you can't go wrong. And y'all, the flavors they have are amazing. Peanut butter, fruity, cocoa, maple waffle, cinnamon roll, and my personal favorite right now is birthday cake. Now, here's the thing. For me, these things right here, they ain't just for breakfast, and they ain't just for being all snuggly on the sofa, okay? I take like a little bag and I put them in there for like, satisfy that sweet tooth kind of thing that I have. Because here's the thing with these, for me at least personally, it doesn't have that zero sugar taste to it. It tastes like any kind of normal treat you would have. So for me, I don't know about y'all, but I have a serious sweet tooth, okay? Like serious. So one thing I do with these is to satisfy that is I put them in the bag and I take them to work or wherever I'm going, right, to have on me. I know that it's high protein, I know that it's low sugar, and I know that it tastes amazing. So look, don't take my word for it, take Magic Spoons for it, and go ahead and get you some. They are offering the Sofa Squad a deal, which makes them even cooler in my book. Click the link below to get some Magic Spoon cereal today. You can build your very own custom box. Let's repeat, because I love that. You can build your very own custom box with all the flavors that you love. Use my code ReportingLive23 to get $5 off. Now you can choose from the best-selling cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, maple waffle flavors, honey nut, blueberry muffin, birthday cake, cinnamon roll, chocolate chip cookie, and look, you can also add their delicious cereal treats to your order. And here's another thing that I think is awesome about them. They stand behind their product. Okay. They have 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it, any reason at all, they'll refund you. No questions asked. So click the link or scan the QR code and use the code ReportingLive23 for $5 off. Or go to magicspoon.com/ReportingLive23 to save $5 off your order today. And guess what? For my Canadian and British fans, they ship to Canada and the UK. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. The sofa's back here. I'm sitting in front of it. And today we're going to continue our discussion about the aftermath of the Chad Daybell trial and the sentencing, the verdict, all that stuff. And specifically with another juror has sat down with Nate Eaton and spoken out. Now, like I said before in my other videos, if you followed me, Nate Eaton is with East Idaho News. He is a journalist. He's an amazing person. Many people have reflected at CrimeCon and whatnot about, they've really grown to enjoy Nate, his reporting, that type of stuff. So I urge you to follow him on all platforms. He's an amazing person. I've met him once. Just a very warm, real, stand-up kind of guy, right? So you don't have to just follow him for this. Anything he's reporting on, even if it's the local weather, it's just, he's the kind of vibe that you just like to have, right? So I urge you to follow him on all platforms and keep up with him. Now, specifically today, what he's done is he's sat down with a single juror, I believe juror number 9, Nick. He just questioned him about more things. So I just wanted to look at a few of the clips of these. I would suggest going and watching the whole thing. I've just pulled out a few talking points to reflect on. So that's it. Also, if you do want to follow me on the Instagram, it's right there. It's on the screen. Links in the description, though. Go on, give it a follow. Good Lord. Now let's get to that first clip.
What I remember about you is that you actually missed the day you were supposed to show up for jury selection.
I did.
But you were noble enough to come back. It's not like a warrant was issued for your arrest. So your alarm didn't go off. What happened that day?
Yeah, so I somehow like forgot to plug in my phone, which I use for my alarm, and so it didn't go off. It didn't wake me up, and I woke up naturally at around 9 a.m. and we're supposed to be there at 9:30, and so I'm kind of panicking, trying to get ready, and also I called the jury commissioner.
I would have crawled underneath the sofa. Can you imagine? I remember this taking place and I was being like, what? Like, seriously? But here he is, right? It just goes to show you never know. You would think just based on that alone, they'd be like, I don't want this dude showing up. I overslept to do this. Now, even though the way he's describing, I'm like, dude, I get it. I use my phone as the alarm. And so if I'm getting up at, say, 6 o'clock, like that's when I need to be up and going and leaving the house. I mean, I'm not going to lie, starting at 4, I'll have alarms going off every 15 minutes just to do the whole process of like, okay, let's gently get into this. So I get what he's saying. If it went off, then it's like, yeah, I'm sleeping in that day. Let's keep going.
What did you know about this case before jury selection?
Really nothing. I mean, I like vaguely remember something happening in East Idaho, but that's it. I'd never heard the names to my memory, like nothing.
And then you go in, and the first day of opening statements, and they're starting to talk about money, power, and sex, and what Chad and Lori did, and what were you thinking when all of this is coming out and you're hearing it for the first time?
I mean, like, this is big. what is going on here? Yeah, going in, I definitely thought I was just going to be like a onesie twosie case, and I'd be done in the week. Hearing some of the more details about it, yeah, I'm going to be here a while if I'm selected.
Can you imagine? So here's the thing, just like you said, think of how, every day is jury selection, right? Most of us have had to go through the process. So imagine when you go through that process and you end up getting, in this case, you're thinking you're doing like simple possession, traffic stuff, like basic stuff like what he's talking about. And you get in there and they're talking about this right here. I mean, it gives me goosebumps because number one, my first thought, and again, I'm a little bit biased because I know the case, but I'm trying to imagine like going in, not knowing that much about it. You've probably seen the headline, that type of thing, but you're not like involved in it. And them describing some of the stuff that happened to the kids and Tammy and like all the stuff and what the things that would go through my mind of like, am I prepared for this? Can I emotionally do, like having to ask yourself those questions, can I do this, Because, I mean, you want to like serve and do what you have to do, right? Obviously, but like for me, it's like, and it's a different perspective because we do this here and we talk about it, because my initial thing is I'm like, there's no way I could be unbiased. Like, I know myself well enough to where I would have a very hard time. So that's one reason why I admire the jurors who are able to like put everything aside, and probably in the actual moment I could, right? It's just kind of me sitting here thinking like, could I be unbiased on the Lori trial? But again, I know so much about it and the Chad trial, it would be difficult to say. But anyway, let's keep going.
Was there a witness or a moment where you said, okay, he's guilty? Or was it just an accumulation over the weeks?
Yeah. At first it's just you're trying to figure out what's going on. You know nothing about what's happened, and slowly more and more details come out. And but there was one witness, Zulma, who I could not stop writing, and they dismissed us, and I was still writing, and I kept writing in the jury room after that. That was a lot. So probably around there, I was really thinking like, this is going to be hard to, take the rest of it impartially.
One thing that I love hearing from the jurors is how well all these witnesses and whatnot, even the ones for the defense, worked towards the prosecution's case. Here is the thing. if you have followed this, I've literally had so many thoughts I didn't know what to do about it. Y'all, I'm sorry, but Zulma on the stand, yikes, right? The way she talks about the belief systems, the structure, and how much information she brings forth to the regular everyday person sitting there, just like he said, you're like, what? What are they talking about? This is next level, okay? A level of insanity that we're just like, So it was so funny. It's like, I just kept running. I'm like, amen, brother. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you've watched the police interviews with her, and if you haven't, you immediately go and watch that right now. You Google Zulma Pasadena's police interview, and you watch it multiple times in multiple probations. But literally, it's so eye-opening. It's scary because you're really getting this mindset, especially back then where to me she was still of the belief system of this. But I mean, I don't know where she's at now. But yeah, her on the stand, absolutely not a cute look for Chad.
Was it about what she said? Do you remember?
So that's when a lot of the details about
Like the castings.
Yeah, and the more of the ratings, the dark ratings, all that stuff came out.
And she had notes. She kept a journal, and they showed that to you all.
Yeah, that was very interesting too, to see the drawings, the levels of ratings explained a little more, especially because that was kind of confusing to me at first when it was brought up.
Yeah, the fact that it was like a picture book, I'm like, I can't with this, right? So to hear them mention that, like, yeah, she had drawings, she had this, they had these notes and all this type of stuff. I mean, they took this so seriously, and that's part of it. When you start seeing the notes and how deep into this they were. And again, I'm just sitting here thinking, the mind is a terrible thing to waste, right? I mean, watching this rabbit hole that they went down and where it led, it was absolute insanity. I would love to know what their thoughts were on, and they probably wouldn't say this, they couldn't, right? Because it's literally just an opinion, but almost like this, like, what's your thoughts on, should someone like Zulma or Melanie be charged with something? You know what I mean? Like that type thing, just out of curiosity, but clearly that's completely not appropriate for this situation with an interview with Nate Eaton, of course. But it would be curious to know, like, what the jurors' thoughts were on things like that.
What was it like sitting the way the courtroom's set up is that the jurors were on one side and you faced Chad Daybell.
Yeah.
You had a perfect shot of him. What was that like, viewing him every day and seeing his kind of non-responsiveness to most things?
It was strange. I will say in the beginning, the first week or two, I tried not to look at him too much. Just trying to just hear the story, hear the facts, and not necessarily. I didn't want to connect it to him right away. Trying to remain impartial. But later on, some of the stuff that was said, he just completely stone-faced, or at times he would shake his head, like no, like if something was said about something he taught or something that he didn't agree with, obviously, yeah.
So many of the jurors mention this as stone cold, just nonchalant, like, energy. And so it's interesting hearing him say that too. But also what he just said there at the end, where he was like, if it's something he didn't agree with, like, notice that Chad gives more feeling or, whatever you want to call it, emotion about that than other things. He has to pretend to cry about Tammy. We saw that, right? So it's just like, the whole thing blows my mind with him. The whole thing absolutely blows my mind with him.
What were your thoughts when all of the religious stuff started to come into play, and the dark and the light and the zombies and the spirits and the names?
The religious stuff, yeah. Well, at first, so I was raised Mormon, and so I'm pretty familiar with their typical beliefs. And so when I started hearing about the other stuff that Chad was saying, teaching, talking about, it's like, well, that's not right. You
knew it wasn't familiar to you,
right? Yeah.
Do you think there were any members of the jury that thought that might be the mainstream Mormon belief, or if you live in Idaho long enough, do you realize that that's not what they teach? That's not what's being held at church.
Maybe some of the minor stuff. I mean, I don't think anybody believed that Mormons are all out there rating people dark and all that stuff. And talking with the other jurors, a lot of them are familiar with Mormons, and they have friends who are LDS, and so the minor stuff, the details of the actual beliefs.
Yeah.
I'm glad they brought this part up, because I've talked to so many of you who are LDS, or brought up around the Mormon religion, all this type of stuff. And one thing that I've enjoyed about this case is, number one, learning about the religion, but then differentiating, Chad and Lori, LDS, you know what I'm saying? And seeing the blurry line that they tried to do, like how they were essentially going and grifting from the church people, and that whole thing, and kind of piecing together too, because I do feel like what Chad did is he couldn't make it in the church, so he went on this offshoot to be his own little god in his own little world, and collect these women and like whatever he was doing, right? I think that was kind of his MO, and he was just drunken with that power. I mean, for God's sakes, look at the man when he was the damn cemetery sexton, right? Okay, you would have thought that he was the president of the United States. His level of self-importance with that. So something like this right here, what he's doing, talking about I'm basically God, right up this man's alley.
Let's talk about the day that Chad's kids testified. What were your thoughts about that?
That was really interesting. I mean, I was anticipating that day for a while, as well as, the gallery was full. Like, everybody wanted to hear from them, what they had to say. And it felt weird. I don't know how much of their stories I believe. Well, obviously with the verdict, we didn't believe them fully. It was, it felt robotic with Emma. And Mr. Pryor made sure to say that he never coached her, but it sounded coached by somebody to me. I don't know.
Maybe her dad?
Maybe, yeah.
This young man is so nice and mannerly the way he's up there, like being so respectful, right? But he hit the nail on the head right here, and interesting towards the end where he made that, observation of, well, Pryor made sure to say that he didn't coach Emma, but it sure seemed like somebody else did. And I mean, you can just surmise that Chad probably had something to do with that, right? Yeah, but him to sit here and say, as well as the other jurors, it felt wooden, it felt rehearsed, it didn't feel right, it felt weird. I mean, people pick up on this stuff, which is why it was surprising to see them actually try and pull that off. I get them taking the stand and whatnot, but again, them trying to just run with this whole narrative of Tammy, her health, and their general demeanor that came through, which was so smug and dismissive of the Tammy and the other victims as well, right? It just shined through, and I was so relieved to see the jurors notice that.
Yeah, they were talking every day.
Did any of the defense witnesses make any difference? Make you think, that's a good point?
Yeah, at first. Definitely on his direct examination, because he has his own questions that he's going to ask. Though also at points they had testimony that I thought helped the prosecution more, and as well as throughout his cross-examinations with them as well. But yeah, once the prosecution did their cross-examination with his expert witnesses, it kind of cleared things up. Like, they didn't have all the information. They didn't know everything. Mm-hmm. So.
I love that he said, like, at first, and then I felt it helped the prosecution more. I mean, this is such a classic case of that, of just watching things one after the other backfire in their faces. And again, do I blame Pryor for it? I mean, maybe some of his tactics, I can't say that word. I'm also highly aware that he's working with Chad as a client. He's having to do what Chad is asking him to do, because at the end of the day, there was stuff that Chad was like, I want you to ask this, or I want you to say this. And that's probably another reason why Chad was so over there, right? Because he's just dialed out, but you rest assured that he probably had an opinion with his own defense, right? Anybody would, and that's where it just shined through. It's like, yeah, this isn't Pryor. It ain't working.
What was the thought about Tammy's death? That seemed to be a big focus of the prosecution, trying to prove that Chad Daybell killed her, especially because, the other two kids, they're buried on his property.
Right.
That's really close to him. But Tammy, And the defense also brought up repeatedly that she was in poor health. Was that hard to come to a decision?
Yes and no. At first, it was a little difficult to determine just how healthy she was or wasn't, and well, you know, the coroner at her death, you know, she ruled it as, you know, probably natural, and I think that if the kids weren't ever found, or if they weren't even missing to begin with, I think he would have gotten away with that.
John Pryor had a doctor also testify who said she didn't believe Tammy died of asphyxiation.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the experts he brought in that we learned later that didn't have all of the extra stuff.
Yeah, Lindsay Blake went through the list. Did you review this? No. Did you review this? No.
And exactly what he's saying. The thing with Tammy's death, it's so murky because the kids and Chad gassed everybody up around them and with each other to Tammy's sick, Tammy's this, Tammy's that, she had this. And then the coroner saying like, oh, natural causes, you know, right at the basically just asking Chad, hey, what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. I mean, it was ridiculous. But he brings up a good point. If say the kids, they decided not to take the kids out, he probably would have gotten away with taking Tammy's life. They probably could have been off living their bizarre little fantasy world if he had just done whatever he did to Tammy and then they kept the kids alive and Charles and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But they would have gotten away with Charles too. You know, they would have gotten away with that. If they hadn't taken the kids out, they could have gotten away with this. And I'm not, you know, advocating for that, obviously. But it's just like, whoa, look at how close they were to being able to do that. Because you know if they got away with that for the interim where they could keep going like kind of under the radar, how many more victims over the years there would have been. Right? If they had just been a little bit smarter about it. And again, thank God they weren't. But it's frightening to see.
Like, do you agree? Yes. You, yes, 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 all throughout, each one of us.
Were there ever some no's?
On the guilt part, nothing.
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 Wow.
We were convinced.
So there wasn't really much heated argument?
No.
It was all yes?
No, yeah, there was discussion about different parts of it, but yeah.
So, this is one of those where this is legit what I think happened. They went back there and they had their first initial like, oh my God, can you believe what we just sat through? Because they can finally talk about it, right? And I'm not lying, y'all. The second that was over, like say that took 10 minutes, they would be like this, like, should we be embarrassed or like self-conscious of the fact that we're ready to go back out there with a guilty verdict? And they might have been like, should we... y'all want to like, I don't know, like do some icebreaker or something like that, kill some time or whatever. At least an hour, right? We need at least an hour, you know, like, well, why don't you tell us about your grandkid? Okay, well, you know what I mean? Like, it just sounds like they were like, yo, this guy is toast. Now on the, you know, the sentencing phase of it, it sounds like they had to put a little bit forth more effort because obviously, as I discussed in the previous video, this is a huge decision, right? Regardless of like the no-brainer or whatever, how we feel like for, against, whatever for the DP, it's still, once you're in there and you're the one making the decision, you want to make sure that this is the right thing because you're going to have to live with that your whole life, right? So you want to make sure that it's all there. This is what the law says. We're following the law. And yes, it's this. And so I appreciate that they did do that and they came to the table with that level of professionalism and, you know, putting everything under a microscope, so to speak, and making sure that everything was present before making their decision.
He didn't stand at the end for you all, for the jury, and I don't know if that's because he was told not to. There's been two trains of thought from amongst a lot of people of he was told to sit and not stand, or he was restrained to the ground, or he was not standing out of defiance, I guess, to your decision. Did you notice that he didn't stand?
You know, I didn't notice. As soon as we're told to stand, it's like, oh, time to leave. So I'm focused on just getting out, like, what's the next thing we're doing? Right. That kind of thing.
So interesting. And again, you know, it's hard to determine. Of course, I can totally see Chad being someone who they're like, don't stand up or whatever. He would be the type to want to do that in defiance, you know. Now, here's one thing that And I haven't made my way all through the jury questions and whatnot. I am paying and praying. I'm wanting to pay good money, but I'm praying to hear Nate Eaton say, "What'd you think of the loin fire? Go on, get bitchy about it." I want to ask the jurors so bad what they thought of the loin fire and the storm, right? I mean, I just feel like they would say, I cringed so hard with secondhand embarrassment that right then and there, I was like, fire old Sparky up. As soon as I heard the storm, go on, get Sparky going. I mean, come on, right? That part, the fact that these poor jurors had to suffer through all the awfulness, all the victims' stories, what was done to them, the photographs, the evidence, but then loin fire was like the salt on the wound, right? Because it was just so unnecessary. So unnecessary. I get that it was meant for just Chad and Lori. But again, it was a snapshot into the little world they lived in. I mean, come on, loin to loin. I'm done. And guess what? So is the video. I do appreciate you watching if you're still here. Now also, let me know what you think down in the comment sections. Drop it down there. And as usual, drop some sofas down in the comment section for myself and Roscoe, wherever he's watching over us at, to come down and sit on the sofa and talk to you about this case and all the other ones we do talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we do that and meander our way down there, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.